All right, it is
Good evening, afternoon.
11:40. Is it evening?
Afternoon.
I don't think I slept last night, so if I collapse on stage, you'll know why. Let's try not to have that happen. Hello, everybody. Back at NDC Oslo, I am Damian Edwards on the ASP.NET team.
David Fowler on the ASP.NET team as well.
So we're going to talk about stuff in ASP.NET Core 2. Who is using ASP.NET Core 1 of some description today? Wow, look at that.
Who loves it? Keep the hands up.
That's awesome. So we released a first preview of the next major version, which is a little quick. I'll be, honest. We released 1.0 last June.
Last June.
But the tools didn't RTM until March this year. So the 1.0 wasn't really until March in some ways. And here we are in June, and we're already talking about 2.0. So we released a preview 1 at Build. Anyone tried out 2.0 yet? Preview 1? No one.
No one?
A couple of hands, like one. Oh, there's a big wave. Okay, good. Yeah. So we're going to take you through, we're going to all code, we're going to show a bunch of stuff that's in 2.0. There's a bunch of stuff that's in 2.0 that we're not going to show, smaller things. Things like Net Standard 2, that's a really big deal. Bringing back like tens of thousands of APIs into .NET Standard. .NET Core 2 and thus ASP.NET Core 2 will support .NET Standard 2, so that's a really big deal. And then there's a lot of little minutiae things under the covers as well. Yep. But we're going to focus on some demoable stuff. So without further ado.
All right, so let's start by using, so I'm going to demo on the Mac, so I'm not showing VS at all today.
No, I'll show
Maybe
VS.
We'll show this at the very end, so get used to it. So you can't see that. Is that good font? Tell me when to stop. Louder.
I heard stop.
Perfect.
There you
okay,
go.
Good. All right, so in the command line, I'll do .NET New. We have a new .NET New in .NET 2.0. I'm not sure if everyone saw this. It's a new template engine, so I can create all kinds of new templates. I can acquire templates from the internet as well. I can install and uninstall templates.
From NuGet.
From NuGet. So it's pretty cool. So there's been like third-party ones for F# and for Angular and React and whatever whatsoever. So I'm going to create a Razor Pages project. Do you want to talk about pages at all, or are we going to create a project and keep going?
So we have a new
new
feature in MVC, Razor Pages. Anyone looked at Razor Pages yet? One hand. I see one hand here, the gentleman in the red shirt. Razor Pages is awesome. So we're going to build an app in Razor Pages. I'm going to show some more Razor Pages features later on. But yeah, so just think of it as, it's MVC. It is MVC. It's the same framework. It's the same view engine. It's just that you can put stuff in a page file rather than putting it in a controller.
So .NET New, Razor. I'll hit Enter. It'll create me a template for Razor Pages. And it should restore as well. It's kind of a nice new feature, restoring on new templates. I'll open my VS Code, and I should see a new project. I'll go into Zen mode. Nope, actually not yet, because it's too early for that. Let's go into the program main first and start up. Let's open these two files, and then I'll close that. And in ASP.NET Core 2.0, we tried to simplify the template a bit by adding an opinionated method called create default builder. If you recall, in 1.0, this code was kind of like host equals new web host builder. It had use Kestrel. It had use content root, a bunch of different stuff on this thing. So we chose to make it a bit simpler in 2.0. So we added this create default builder, which kind of has a bunch of defaults built into it, including reading from config, adding config by default for app settings.json, adding the DI configuration to the actual DI container, adding logging for console and for debug. What does it do? I think it does
a bunch of, it uses Kestrel, obviously.
It adds Kestrel, it adds IS Express. If you are on IS on Windows,
it'll add IS support for you. You mentioned that it puts configuration in the DI container so that you can get to your configuration instance throughout your application. We also configure that configuration with a number of sources by default. It's basically what you saw in the templates before. So there's an app settings.json, app settings.environment.json, user secrets, environment variables, all that type of stuff. So that's all just default, and you can change it. You don't have to use that API. You can either go back to the very manual build your web host builder yourself, or you can chain things off that API and then compose on top of it, just like you
can still add logging providers here. If I do configure logging, I can add more things here. So this is a change from 1.0 where logging was configured in startup class. Now it's configured in the program main. And there's also a new method called configure app configuration. It was called configure configuration, but that sounded kind of weird to do configure configuration.
Configure all the configuration.
So you could just do this and then say context, builder, and you can add more things here. That won't compile. So I can do builder dot add Docker secrets, add your key vault, et cetera, et cetera. So you can compose on top of the default builder as well.
Right.
All right.
And they're in here, they're earlier because they're all in DI now. So configuration before wasn't in DI, logging wasn't really in DI, only the logger factory.
Right.
But now all this stuff gets set up as part of the web host and it's available to you
super early.
in the DI container.
All right. So if I look at my program main, my start class now, I should see we now get iConfiguration in the constructor. Before this was actually newed up in the constructor, and you had to add providers here. It's nice for a bunch of reasons. If you wrote tests before, you had to kind of work around the fact that you had to read from config files in the start constructor. Then you can pass in a different configuration in your tests from like in memory or wherever else, and pass it in via DI. So it's much cleaner than what we had in 1.0. And another big change is logging. So logging, we made it. So in 1.0, you had a call here that was inject the logger factory. If I could find it, logger factory. And then we'd call factory.add console and add logger, whatever, and we configure it here. In 2.0, we made logger configuration an intrinsic. So now, by default, every logger provider gets this pluggable config by default.
So yeah, in 1X, we only supported that on the console logger. It was a specific detail of the console logger provider,
Yep.
But it's super useful. You can change the logging verbosity and who you're listening to logs from while the application is running just by changing this file, and the configuration gets reloaded on the fly.
Right.
So now that's available to all logger providers in ASP.NET Core, which is kind of nice.
So let's show that. So if I .NET run this, I think I have the environment variable set where I'm in debug. No. All right, export ASP.NET Core environment equals development. If I .NET run this now, it should say development. And we'll show you logging and perfect. So let me
Make some requests.
hit this URL to a different
That's
page.
a super tiny browser you have there. There we go.
Let's zoom all the way
In.
in. OK, good. This runs. I have a bunch of logs happening here by default. For the console, I can go into the app settings.development.json, and I can say I want Microsoft to be warning only. Save it. No reloads. I'll hit F5 again. Refresh. And now I can't. Did that even prove it to you? OK, hold on. That was a bad one. Debug.
Because you got you make it more.
Let's make it
not
show
less.
more stuff. I'll refresh this now. And it should show a bunch of stuff from like
There we go.
Kestrel and tree router, different stuff, right? Kestrel showing like the actual connection for the request.
And because it's coming from config, you don't have to put it in the app settings.json file.
Right.
You can put it in anything that you've plugged in as a configuration
Environment
provider.
variables.
So you could pass those things through environment variables, or whatever you want. So,
All right, so let's do.
although
right now.
environment variables don't get reread on the fly.
They don't.
Obviously. Files we can detect changes from, not environment variables.
Right. All right, so one other big change we made to .NET Core 2.0, we made a big change to our security system. So if you've been using the authentication system, and Barry's right there staring at me, so I hope I don't say anything bad. It was kind of broken. It was a relic of what we had in Katana. So Katana was the ON stack for Microsoft ASP.NET Core, before Core. And we kind of ported it verbatim to .NET Core. And it had a bunch of issues that were very intricate, but it caused big issues like across the board. So we made a big change in 2.0 to make it so that different kinds of authentication providers have been moved from middleware to services, and there's a single auth middleware that kind of marries the entire thing together.
We made it better, really.
It's much better.
Yeah. So I think there was we
It
had
works the same way, but it's much
we
better.
made a mistake in 1.1. So we don't try and break people obviously in minor releases, but it turned out the security system or the auth system design introduced an unintended behavior that we didn't even realize, and so we didn't know people had started depending on that behavior, and then we inadvertently broke that behavior by fixing it in 1.1, so the behavior no longer worked, and that broke a whole bunch of people who relied on the behavior. So we worked with those people in the community in 2.0 to redesign the system so that it was a lot more, I guess it's strict, like you can't do things the wrong way. It's designed to work the way that people were actually ended up using it. So
yeah, it's still flexible, but it's very very strict now. All right, so I'll just do services dot add authentication. And I believe this wasn't here before. Add authentication. And services.add cookie middleware. So this is new. Before you had use cookie middleware in the actual configure pipeline, not in services. We've moved those things to be services instead. So I can do like configure cookie middleware options and say I want the login path to be /login, for example.
So technically, this isn't a middleware anymore.
Correct.
Yeah, there's one auth middleware and then different things plug into it, different schemes.
And there's a single call to a use authentication middleware in the pipeline. If you notice, we actually have the entire set of APIs available to you in 2.0 as well.
You didn't have to like find a package.
Yeah, so before,
nice.
This would have been find a package, add a JSON file, do a restore, add a package, over and over. In 2.0, we added this thing called the Uber package. That's what we call it internally.
The Uber meta package.
It's a meta package. And it's super simple. It's a single line in your CS project that has Microsoft ASP.NET The name I mean, I didn't name it.
I named it.
There was.
I think we threw around a few names and no one came up with a better one than .all.
.most.
No, if you do most, then you can't have one that's like moster.
That's
when
true.
We have to add more
This
stuff.
is literally everything. We added everything.
Everything we ship, including all the third-party dependencies for
Yeah.
third-party providers like Redis and SQLite. And it's everything.
It's still scary. But it's not as bad as you think it's going to be.
No, because there are other features that make it awesome.
Right.
But you get to see all the APIs. You don't have to hunt for anything. If we ship it, it's in there. You get to see it by default, which is really cool. There's a question from this gentleman right here.
So how do you go from, well, I'm doing it?
Hang on. This gentleman happens to be John Skeet. All right?
Oh my gosh.
I can't see him, but I can hear him. So let me do that again. There's a question from John Skeet.
So you do development like that.
Yes.
You say, hey, I'd like to be able to seal my dependencies. Can you say, right, get rid of that package reference. Show me what packages I'm really dependent on.
Right, so the question is, can you, as part of like packaging the app at the end, can you seal the dependencies so that... Pardon? After prototyping, so that you can kind of... Trim into the actual concrete things that you have. Do you want that then to be preserved in the project forevermore? No, you can't do that. There's no gesture for that today. Yet. There is a and even the thing that we know exists that is going to be released in a couple of weeks as a prototype doesn't quite do that, but it gets you a little closer to that.
We take pull requests though, so if you want to,
that's true.
If you want to like help us out. But it is super nice for development because I can see all the APIs like at once. And I can know it's there. I can find Twitter and. So one kind of a troll thing that we did. It's not a troll. It's kind of a half troll. These things are completely deprecated, so they're still there to make it show errors in the actual IDE, but you can't use it anymore. So if you upgrade from 1.0 to 2.0 and you have cookie middleware or Twitter or Google, this will happen to you, and you'll cry and we'll be like, sorry, bro, but. Then you read the documentation.
It's a major release. There were some breaking
You read the docs,
changes.
and then you go, okay, this is much better because we designed a better system in 2.0
It is
than
better.
1.0. All right, so let's add Twitter, because why not? Options, okay. You guys couldn't some help for the IntelliSense. Client, what is it? Was it consumer key and consumer secret?
I love how all the different auth providers use different names for their secrets and identifiers. That's super helpful. Don't worry, you're just being assassinated from the back. It's all fine. I'll protect you.
We'll use configuration. And by default, we also enable user secrets. Has anyone here ever checked in stuff into source control that shouldn't be in there? Passwords, connection strings.
You're all lying. Everyone's done it.
Credit card numbers.
I've searched GitHub. I've seen it.
Well, let's do a test. Machine key.
Okay, moving on. Moving on. Barry's going to come up here and like drag you off the stage.
All right, so here we are. We have we added Twitter to services, and we're reading the configuration from configuration.
Very good.
So now I want to actually set my configuration keys so I can actually use Twitter at runtime. So I have a secret, top secret file on disk that is super secretive. That has
Is it secret because you made it small?
So I'm gonna have to like delete these keys after this talk. But if I look at my think I put it in NDC Oslo practice, maybe? Yeah, notes. Okay, so this is gonna be recorded, but like, don't look. Don't look. Don't use my keys. Don't use my keys. All right, so Twitter consumer key and Twitter consumer secret. So I'm gonna use the .NET command line tool, .NET user secrets, which is included by default with the template. Every console is like super small. All right, I'll go into the dev folder, the NDC. We have 2 talks, by the way. So this is talk 1. I have talk 2 folder as well, in case you're wondering why it's 2 talks. 1 in the evening. OK, so .NET user secrets. On by default, pretty nice. Set Twitter consumer key equals that. And then the other one is Twitter consumer secret, which is super secret. Please don't copy my code.
That's the really secret one.
Please don't look. Let's erase this super slowly. And then hit,
Oh, you missed the space.
Almost worked.
Painful.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, good.
Hide it, quick.
All right.
All right.
One more thing I want to do before I continue. I want to add .NET Watch. Does anyone use Watch before? Because you all use VS. Does anyone use VS Code like in real life? Not for a joke, but like every day. And they don't close it and use VS like at some random point in time. They use VS Code like no matter what. Yes?
Yes? They're VS Code users?
1 to
With .NET Core?
16.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Perfect. I'm going to add .NET Watch. I think I know the name of the project is .NET. Why is this extension? This is .NET. Do you know why
Because it's part of the .NET. Because it's a tool for the .NET CLI.
Arbitrary.
Because naming is hard, David.
Yes, that's why. .NET Watcher Tools. I'll run a restore in that folder. And I'll do .NET Watch run. Nope.
Nope. Roo.
It started.
It did something.
It tried. All right.
There we go.
Now we can write code without having to worry about having to refresh the page over and over. Yes, perfect. All right. So auth is super complicated. And I won't even explain why I'm going to fix this, but I'm going to fix it anyway. And just show you like how complicated it is. And it's Barry's fault because he helped design the system. So you can blame him afterwards. So, I know. My fault.
We have to set all the options.
So we don't have any good defaults here yet. We may change this as soon as we leave this conference. There are no good defaults. I'm going to set the defaults to cookie authentication. So there's 5 verbs for authentication. There's authenticate, there's forbid, there's challenge, there's sign in, and there's sign out. And if you want to know what they mean, you should read the documentation.
You should go to his talk.
It's super. Yeah, at what time? Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, 10:20.
10:20. Go to Barry's talk and he'll tell you about those 5 verbs and why.
And there are defaults.
Not by default.
You added,
No, there's nothing by default.
you added 2. If you only add 1, which is what most people do, the defaults are picked up.
Oh, what? No.
Yeah,
This is.
I'll demo it.
I'm gonna hard code like these 3 names.
Should we just stop and then go to Barry's talk tomorrow?
Maybe we should.
And then we'll just continue.
And we'll
this
learn
after
more
that?
stuff, right?
No, I'm just kidding.
All right, so default sign-in scheme, default challenge, and default authenticate scheme. So when you go to Twitter and then come back from Twitter to sign into the actual site, Twitter is storing its identity into some into something. And I'm saying, whenever Twitter comes back, sign into cookies. So I'm using cookies to store Twitter's ID and name from that handshake, right?
Cool.
So this should be fine now. Should work.
Okay.
Good. Let's add some UI so I can log in. So I'll add a new Razor page, a new thingy. I'll go to Pages, and I will type from the command line. And there is a VS template for this. There is like a .NET file new project for Razor pages. New Razor.
That's a project.
And
You're doing a page?
Oops.
Page.
Page.
There you go.
Okay, segue. There's this new, like, super cool, it's not working though, so I won't show it anymore.
Oh.
But there's an autocomplete plugin coming for
Tab completion.
.NET CLI. So
Yeah.
I installed it. It's super, like, not ready yet, but it's kind of cool. It's like a .NET tab autocomplete in Bash or PowerShell, the command names. So new page, /n, login, and namespace. What do I call this project?
What did you call it? My
NDC Talk 1. That's lowercase and bugging me. .pages. All right.
Nice.
I have a page now. My page folder. And since no one has seen Razor pages, Damian's like, baby, you can explain what this is.
It's a page, and that's a model.
Why it's so cool.
And that's a method that will run when a GET request comes in.
Why is it better than a MVC return view?
There's a lot less stuff you have to do in order to get it to run Razor, but you get all the power of MVC. Like, there's literally nothing you can't do here that you would normally do when returning a view. In fact, you can do more stuff that's really fun and
There's
useful.
Nothing you can't do
for when you're doing pages stuff, for when you're doing HTML stuff.
That's awesome.
So,
all right,
and I'll do a little bit more of this later.
It's awesome. So we're going to inject a new authentication service, or I think it's new at least, in 2.0. Authentication. I can't type it out, so I'm just typing the using first because Microsoft Internet Core Authentication. And I'll inject the authentication scheme provider, so I can get all the schemes that were added to the off system. So by default, it'll give you the schemes for cookie, Twitter, Google, Windows, based on what you added to the services. I want to get just Twitter, so I'll show you how to get that right now. So scheme provider, and then I'll do the dance where I store a variable in a local field, and then this is super annoying, by the way. I hate doing this.
There's a Roslyn fix-up for that now.
At some point in time,
in
we'll get
VS there is.
So I can declare a property here that will be available in the view itself. Let's capture the authentication schemes. Get set property, and on get I'll just set these schemes to be this scheme provider.get request handler schemes. These aren't the same as get all schemes. Get all schemes return things like cookie and Windows. Get request handler schemes gives you schemes that are all outbound, like for Twitter or for Google, the external ones. So I can make this async, because async void and it's terrible. And now I just need to add a front end for this. So in my front end, I'll render out the links for this, and I should copy and paste the things. I can't type this
I like watching you type HTML. It's always fun.
Nope.
No?
Not
Okay.
even going to start. I'm going to copy the page from my other project, which is right here, which has a pre-canned everything on a page.
Isn't it just a for each loop and a button?
It's super short, too. Look at that.
That is quicker than you typing it out.
You can copy that.
That is quicker than you typing it out. There we go.
All right. So I'm printing out all the schemes that are in the DI system. And if I run this page, now I should have, well, if I go to login.
It explodes.
Malform tag helper. Oh.
Copy paste error.
Oh.
Another one. Do you namespace right?
Complaining about? Let's try this.
Definitely going to be your namespace.
You think so?
Can't find the model.
So .pages didn't work. That didn't work
check
either.
The import. You broke it.
Ah, this was working
You
before.
totally broke it. What did you do?
At model, at page. At page means it's a Razor page.
Login model. That's right.
We're gonna explain things like if there's no issues.
Login. Same namespace. You got it in.
The other ones are
Check the view.
.pages. These are all. Oh. Is that different?
Okay.
That looks. Does anyone see the bug? Give me a. Someone help. 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 Login model, page model, blah, 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 blah. So this works.
You could just cheat and fully qualify it. Oh.
This.
Definitely the model.
This.
Is your .NET watch working? Just check your watch.
What the hell? Okay. When all goes wrong, what do you do normally? You close everything. You close everything. You restart VS, you reboot your computer, delete your hard drive, and you start from scratch. All right, it's .NET run. Let's not watch anymore. Let's make this bigger. on the login link. Oh.
You just
Don't
restarted.
clap for that. Don't clap for that.
I reckon it was,
It was
watch.
terrible. Okay.
You were right all along. It just
Now I'm going to post.
didn't
So
like you.
there's a form here that has each scheme, Twitter, whatever I'm going to add, Google. I have a button here that has the scheme name in a value field. So when I actually post, it'll post back to the actual the page, the code behind, and it will run my action. So I'm going to add a dot
And on post.
public on post here. Public
So we've got a method that'll run on get, and we'll have another one that runs on post.
void on post, and it needs to actually return an
Action result.
action result. So this is familiar, right? All right, so now we're going to say this takes a scheme in from the actual
The button value.
the button value. We'll return challenge with the scheme, and I will redirect to authentication properties, redirect URI slash, or yeah, that should be good enough.
That's good enough.
So I'm going to post, I'm going to click on Twitter. It'll challenge Twitter, which means go to twitter.com, get my authentication credentials, come back to my website with the principal,
You
and
know, there's
send it to cookies.
zero chance this is going to work first time. Like, third-party auth never works first time. You either pasted the key wrong, or you didn't fill in all the fields on your Twitter app, or you're not
Watch.
using HBS, or you can't use localhost, you need to edit your host file. Third-party auth is just... There's no way this is
Take a
gonna work.
bet.
Not going to work.
First time. First time.
Or you'll forget your Twitter password. That would be funny. Oh my goodness! It did. How do I know that worked? It didn't do anything. So nothing changed. I don't trust you.
I could copy some.
Prove it.
You know what?
Prove it.
I need to copy from my notes. I'm
Just
gonna
put something
paste
in the nav bar.
Some wonderful UI in the nav bar. See, oh, no.
Whoa.
That was a paste. Copy this wonderful piece of code that goes into the actual layout page and says,
Where does it go?
I don't know.
It goes in there somewhere. There you go. That looks right.
That's not how it's supposed to paste.
Yeah, look, that looks right.
All right.
It'll
If
look
I am
awesome.
logged in, print the name and show a button for logout. If I am logged in, show. If I'm not logged out, log in.
Right.
Refresh. Boom.
Ah, okay. It says David Fowl.
Oops.
That doesn't work because you don't have a logout link yet.
Let's fix that.
Okay.
Let's fix that. Okay.
But it
so
says David Fowl. I believe you now.
works. I'm on
Okay.
Twitter. It's good.
All right.
It's my Twitter name. Missing my ER. All right. So in startup, I'm going to add a piece of code that will handle the login, the log out button.
Mm-hmm.
And I could do a controller, but instead I'll show a lesser known way of doing that, which is routes directly. So I can do use router, and I can say routes, and I can type properly and say routes.map post logout. This should be async context.
So you're just going to route to a delegate,
Yep.
basically. That's nice and lightweight.
So whenever someone says, whenever a route goes to logout, it'll call my delegate, and I can just say
Nice.
context dot. So this will trip you up. Authentication is still there in 2.0, but it's deprecated. But is it deprecated right now?
It is, I think, isn't it?
It will be. So if I run this, it might just do nothing and not tell me it's not working. So instead, what you want to do is use, this should be async. I'll show you an upgrade step from 1 to 2 right now. You just do this,
Easy.
and then you
And then
control
it fails.
dot.
Oh, then you bring it in.
So
Extension
it's
methods.
super confusing, but
We did that to aid
the
migration.
yeah.
Otherwise, you just like nothing. Your app doesn't compile at all. And
Yeah.
You don't get any indication as to why. So
So when that happens, I'm going to just redirect response, redirect to slash.
all right.
Perfect. So now, if I wait 5 seconds for Watch to restart my app and pretend like nothing's happening,
Too quick.
there you go. It's back on. Log out, now works.
Nice.
Log in, Twitter, log out, boom.
That wasn't too bad.
Awesome. All right, some more features. We added some more stuff.
Well, I'm a little concerned about that massive package. It's going to bring down 500 megabytes of stuff into my app.
You should be.
Yeah. So can we look at what happens?
Let's do a publish and see what happens to applications. All right, so I have my application right here. Should I do one application first, or should I just do it right here?
Sure, you can do a 101.
Let's compare it to 1.0.
Compare it.
Let's do NDC Oslo 2017 101 app. And because of a super awesome bug, somewhere, I won't blame anybody, somewhere at some point in time in some product, if I can type, 2017.
Is there no tab completion for that?
I have too many similar folders.
Okay.
So dumb. All right, I have to add a global JSON that says, please use the 1.1 tooling because the 2.0 tooling can't create 1.0 projects temporarily.
In the first preview.
Because of a temporary bug.
It will get fixed.
In someone's code somewhere.
Is it in your
But
code?
it's not mine. So
It's not your code?
I can't blame. I can't take the
Okay.
blame for that. Version is 1.01.
SDK 104, I think. Is it? 103?
I don't think it
104?
matters. .NET version, that's .ent. .NET version.
The little known alternate.
So you can change the version of .NET CLI if you just add a global JSON to your folder. It's kind of nice.
All right.
So .NET new, MVC, enter. We'll create a project in 333 milliseconds. .NET restore that project. And I will run .NET publish -c release. It'll publish the application. And we will open bin, release netcore app 1.0, publish. Look at the output. So in 1.0, we had tons of stuff by default. I don't know how to zoom in on the Mac. I'm so sorry. How do I zoom in? I don't even know.
It's a lot, though.
Tons of stuff.
All
It's
right.
that small.
So that's a 1.0 app.
It's a 1.0 app.
Okay.
Now in 2.0, haha.
Which references more, right?
Let's do a new app in this new MVC demo 2.0. No clashing. .NET new MVC, which ran restore for me, by the way. So that's an improvement on 1.0. It ran restore like on new project creation. All right, so let me do the same thing. .NET publish -c release. And if I open up the same, oh, you saw it. Did you see it?
No one saw
You
it.
see what happens?
Magic.
Bin, release, 2.0 publish. Boom. Look at that. This is a bug. But
What, the folder?
ignore that one lib, SQLite by lib.
Oh.
So what happened there?
So now that we have this meta package that contains the world, right? We don't want to publish all of that in your output. That would be bad. That would make your apps enormous. And so we have a new feature in .NET Core 2 called the Runtime Store that allows you to basically take the runtime assets from a NuGet package and place them in a global location on the machine. It optimizes them as part of doing that. It basically engens them. It uses a new version of the tool called CrossGen, which pre-jits the assemblies as well. And then during publish, you can specify a manifest that says, when I publish my application, please assume that all these things, these runtime assets from these packages, are already available on the target server. And by default for ASP.NET Core 2, because all of our stuff comes with .NET Core 2, that's just all set up for you by default. But you can add your own stuff to it, you can create your own manifest, and you can trim out anything that you want out of the output of your publishers, as long as you install the stuff in the runtime store on the servers that you're deploying to. So that means that these apps are only like 4 megabyte in their output versus 16 meg or something for the similar app in 1X. So.
Yep.
And
there's one more thing here. One more thing.
One more thing?
Precompiled views.dll. What is that?
So we also now, by default, precompile all of your Razor views and pages on publish. So there's no views here. You can't see, there's no views folder, there's no pages folder. We precompile that as part of the publish step using a tool that's already configured in your dependencies. And that means that you don't have to pay the cost of parsing your Razor, jitting it, compiling it, all that stuff at startup time. The real expense is loading Roslyn into your application when your app starts on your web server, okay? Because Roslyn's really big.
Yep.
What's the difference?
Let's show that. All right, so I have two apps, 1.0 and 2.0. Let's add some code to time how long it takes to boot the app. So do my 1.0 app first, which is in that weird folder that I can't autocomplete. NDC Oslo 2017 1.1 app. Let's go into code and add some code. Let's change this to be start. Let's do a using to be good citizens. Dispose things, even though the process will end right afterwards.
Still.
Yeah. Stopwatch. Let's do
Can't we time the whole thing?
very scientific measurement.
Can't we time the whole thing?
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
First line of
start.
programming.
Oh.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Time the whole thing. Probably doesn't make any difference. It's like 3 milliseconds there.
Okay. No. Okay. You know what? If the demo goes bad,
It's
You changed it.
all on me.
you changed it.
All on me.
That's fine. All right. Stopwatch dot stop. We will print out took blah C# 7 syntax milliseconds.
Okay.
We will make a request so we can actually time the first request as well as the startup time of the application. Client equals new HTTP client. And we will make a request too, because I know the port is going to be get string. 5,000, we default to that. And never do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't block. But it's fine because it's startup. It's fine. All right. Ready? Let me copy this code.
This is the new app or
Yeah,
the old app?
This is the old one.
This is the old app.
New
Okay.
Web Builder, use Kestrel, use
Okay.
blah, 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 use more things.
So this will be a
use
1x app.
Yep.
Okay. So you're going to publish this, and then we'll run it. We'll see how long it takes.
Should I delete the old folder? I don't trust it. That's fine. Publish. No compile errors.
So far, so good.
Boop. All right, let me go to bin, release, netcrap 1.1, publish, and run that's a lot of files. .NET, and God, that's such a bad, autocomplete is trolling me. NDC, let me be perfect. .NET NDC Oslo 2017 1.1 app.dll.
Explosion.
What?
Can't bind to 5,000. You're
Oh.
still running? You're still running over there.
Go away, watch.
Try that again. All right, so it took 3 seconds. 3.1 seconds. Okay.
Let's get average.
This is how everyone benchmarks, right? How many measurements does it take before it's like legit?
17.
17? This is how we burn the next 20 minutes of the talk?
So Kestrel works.
Okay.
It's like benchmark Kestrel. 17 runs at least.
I thought we just hit F5 in the browser and hold
Yeah.
it down like this.
All right, so let's run I called the other one like a weird name, and new MVC 2.0 demo. That was clever.
So what did we say? 3 seconds?
3 seconds for the first one.
We'll round it down to 3 seconds? Okay.
Yep. In this code, we're going to do the same thing.
Now we've got a 2.0 app. We're
Like
going to do
copy
the
and
exact
paste.
same thing.
This code right here. It's a little bit trickier. And by trickier, I mean declare a variable. Instead of stopwatch.
Okay.
Resolve this. Same thing.
Yep.
Perfect.
Looks good.
.NET publish -c release.
Takes a little longer to publish because we're pre-compiling the views.
Release. Go to release 2.0 publish. That's .NET super small. .NET
It is
new
small.
MVC demo DLL.
1 second. Can we get it under a second?
You know how?
How?
We moved the stopwatch.
We moved to now it's actually timing the whole thing. When we it was under a second. There you go. He's had to run it a few times, warm up the caches on the
See?
flip that is on the Fubas.
17 times.
Look at that, it's getting quicker. What a feature. Now it's going higher again. Anyway, so that's
All right.
a lot quicker, right? And this is an incredibly simple site. It's
Yep.
just file new.
File new project.
But you can imagine a bigger site takes a lot longer to precompile views and stuff. So
All right.
that's good.
So there are a few more small fringe features that are kind of nice in 2.0. What was my app again? It was Talk 1. This isn't Talk 2. So open this code. Oh, I'm back here. Wonderful. So what if you want to count the number of requests? What was the thing again? It counts the number of requests and then
We have
stops.
so there's a new thing called I-hosted service.
A background
So
task.
If you want to do
Think of it as
background
background
work
task
in your
in the same
application,
application.
but have it coordinated with the life of the web host. So you could just spin up a background thread, right? But then you have to, you want that to just shut down correctly rather than just like crash when the application goes away. So we have a new interface called I-hosted service that you can put in the DI container, and then the web host will discover those when it's starting up and call a start method on them basically, and then it'll run, it'll do whatever you do in your I-hosted service, and then when the app shuts down, it gives you an opportunity to be notified when it's shut down as well.
And before you could have used the, I believe it's called the iApplication lifetime,
Right.
but it wasn't DI friendly. It was more an event-based model. So I would do an iApplication lifetime and have lifetime passed into me, and I would say lifetime.started.register a callback.
Yeah.
This is more add a service to the container that will get activated via DI and pass a bunch of context.
Who does background work in any of their web apps today? Anyone like, yeah, okay, quite a lot of people. Good.
Nice.
All right, so we have a feature for this now. So let's have a look at this, how this works.
So we're going to add a new file. Let's call it request counter service. CS. And namespace, what's my namespace? That's the wrong. Public request counter service. Derives from I-hosted service. And it has start and stop. In 2.0 Preview 2, these are both asynchronous, so you can do async stuff in the startup and stop. I'm using Preview 1 right now, so it's not synchronous. It's all synchronous. And I will write some code to print out the request count every second.
Okay.
So first, we need a request count. So maybe in the startup class, let's add a class called, let's add a quick class here. Let's not create files. Let's do it horribly. Let's call it request count. And it will have an add one. And it will have a reset. And it will expose a property. So let's have a field request. Expose a property called the request. And then we'll C#ify this thing. Yeah, that feels good. All right. Let's increment this safely because it's multi-threaded. Request 1 is actually add. And reset will just like reset the thing to 0. So it's a pretty simple service. Exchange, no. All right, and then I will add this to the container. I'll do services.add singleton, request count, and I will services.add singleton, I-hosted service as the actual interface. Request counter service. And what do you want? Did it resolve that? What?
That's odd. Cannot be used.
No implicit conversion from that to this?
Did you implement the right thing? Yeah, it did.
Looks right.
Is this VS Code just crapping out again?
Let's try it. Let's try it again. All right. Services.add singleton. I hosted service. Oh, that's why. Request counter service. And now we need a piece of middleware that will count the request every time a request comes in. So I'm going to add a new thing. That's a new feature that we added for a very obscure scenario, maybe. My counter middleware. And this guy is in the same namespace. And he will be a new thing called an iMiddleware. Yeah, we have an interface now for middleware. No collapse.
Who has written a custom middleware in their app?
It's not a big deal.
Anyone? A few
That's
people? Yeah, there's a few hands. Okay, good.
Nice. So now there's an interface for middleware. Before there wasn't one. It was very convention-based. We added one. Yay. So one
Does
difference
it add any features?
One difference is it gets activated per request versus being activated once per application lifetime.
Okay.
So you can inject scope services more easily than having to do like resolve service from the actual context.
Right.
So my counter middleware will get access to the request count, and it will just say, I hate this thing. This is what I do. I type count equals count, and then the compiler goes, are you sure you want that? And I'm like, no, I don't. Underscore, and then I just resolve this thing. All right, I bet Resharper is better than this. It's okay, I need to do Sharper. Return task.completed task, perfect. So this guy will add one to the count every time a request comes in. And in my startup CS, I will, so I do have to add the middleware to the container because it is going to get resolved as my middleware. So I need to add scoped my counter middleware. And for the very last piece, I'm going to loop every second and print out the actual request count. Pretty simple. So I'm going to take in a logger. I'm going to take in an iLogger of request counter service, because that's convenient. Logger. This is log typing. Let me try something else. Again. All right, so that, and I need the request count. And do the same thing. Nope. And start, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff here. See how fast I can get it to be typed out. I'm going to keep track of the running task. So I'm going to create a task that actually does a loop forever and does this actual background printing out of stuff. And it will start off here, so I'll just say like run. Just create this method. We'll just do well.
So you have to return from start. You
Yes.
can't just block on start.
If you block start,
that would be bad.
The app won't start.
That would be bad.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to kick off your background work and
Yep.
start, but return. All right.
And let's create a cancellation token. This is like correct.
Says you.
This is super correct.
Okay. I'll ask John later whether this is correct.
It's correct, Dan. Cancellation token source. And when I end the actual, and stop when I say cancel, to stop the task from running, and I will wait for the task to complete.
Mm-hmm.
Don't block. In
Except-
2.0, it's not, it's asynchronous, so you can actually await this. Okay, perfect. Almost perfect. And in here, I'm going to take in a cancellation token. I'm going to just loop until this is done, while not requested. This will be. Then this will just do await task.delay. Delay second. I'll pass in the token. And I will log number of requests count, and this will be count.request. Now I'll just say count reset.
Okay, so we have a hosted service that takes another service that you're using to track the number of requests. You have a piece of middleware that also takes that service that pings it to
Yep.
say that there are requests, and then the hosted service periodically gets a number of requests, prints it, and then clears it out and keeps going.
And on stop,
and then
it'll
it'll
cancel
stop.
the entire thing, and it should just
Okay.
wait for the task to unwind gracefully.
Okay.
All right, let's try this. That's a lot of code. Should just work the first time. No, I'm not. This is a feature of logging that preserves the names of the actual arguments. So if you go into a system like Serverlog or Kibana, Logstash, and those things, they can actually sort by, you can search by these names of these categories.
Right.
I could do that.
That would be different.
It's different.
Yes.
Nice catch. Nice catch. So I think this works. I think this works. I think
Let's try
works. Let's add one more log here.
So you can see it start?
Yeah.
Okay.
So log information, starting, counter service. And we do plan to build more things on top of this, like a background task runner, so you don't have to write all this code to do like a simple background.
Yeah, and we do have
background
some examples of this right now. That, for example, will dequeue from a RabbitMQ thing. No, it's good.
Second talk.
It's good. We'll talk about that later on today. But you can imagine having a bit of background work in your app that's dequeuing from some message bus of some description and then reacting to it in your app. You might use it for cache invalidation or something like that.
Right.
Watch a file.
Yep. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this.
I always get scared when I see this type of code in a web application there.
It's perfect.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
So it boots up the application, and it should say starting counter service. There it goes every second. It's counting request.
Very good. Can we make it something other than 0?
No. Was it ever 1? I can't tell. but.
Are you resetting it every time you print it? Okay.
But
But.
I could do this and say warning
Yeah.
only.
Okay.
And then we only have logs for this thing, our app.
Ah.
I can request.
You have to be very quick when you get back.
Request.
Because it resets.
Why did it log in this stuff? Oh, am I in production? Wait, did I save it? Console warning. Am I in the right app? Is it Wednesday? Huh? I hope so.
In the editor, you mean?
Thanks, VS Code. Yep, wrong app.
They all look the same. That makes it really hard. It's better than being in the wrong database window when you issue that delete command. Which I've never done, of course.
Why isn't it counting? Someone debug it for me.
We don't have time to debug.
Well,
You either fix it in the next 10 seconds, or they all think you're a failure.
2, 3, 4. Oh. Easy fix.
Okay.
7. I just
7.
never reset it.
You'll have to restart the app.
Oh yeah, and that. It's by design. So we tell PMs when stuff breaks and...
Okay, when it's not ready yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's intentional.
Implementation detail.
Yep.
Still totally not 1.
This never worked.
Okay. And it crashes when it ends.
Well...
That's great. I'm going to let you try and fix that.
It's because of the weight. I
Okay.
can just get rid of the weight and not crash.
I'm going to take it now.
Okay, you should show
and
me
I'm going to
this.
show some other stuff that we built on top of that actually works.
Yeah. I need to make this work now.
So there's another thing we built called hosting startup instead of iHosted service, which allows you to inject code basically into the application at startup time and then have it be called by the web host builder.
Barry's here, but the code name is like virus. That's what I call it.
Virus?
I call it virus.
It's not a virus.
I know.
It's a friendly virus.
It's a good virus.
And so we use this now to, when you deploy your ASP.NET Core 2 application to Azure, if you're so inclined, and you use, we can automatically light up application insights for you. And so you go through a little experience in the portal. It says, do you want to turn on app insights? You say yes, and then it kind of injects stuff into your code, into your application. The next time it starts up, you start seeing stuff get tracked automatically, which is kind of nice. So here's an app that we built over the last couple of days. That's tracking stuff in App Insights. And the other thing it does now is it tracks my dependencies as well. So it's tracking all these outgoing HTTP calls from my application automatically. I didn't have to do anything in my app to do this. I didn't even have to reference Application Insights. This is just by default as a result of this new ability to inject stuff into the application at runtime. Now, we also use it in VS. If I hit F5, this is basically the same app that David was just working on, but I'm in Visual Studio.
But working.
But working, because it has less code.
Yes.
if I hit F5 and start debugging the application, if I go back to Visual Studio, you'll note up here, I don't know if you've ever seen this, there's an application insights experience in Visual Studio that's active while you're debugging. Now, it has nothing to do with Azure when it's running in this mode. Okay, it's not sending anything to Azure. It's collecting app insights events from my running application. And we do all the work automatically in VS to inject the correct configuration and the correct code to turn on tracing. And so you get all the traces from ASP.NET Core funneled into your application insights experience in Visual Studio. Did you just figure out what it was? Yeah. I'm going to hit F5 a few times to create some requests. And then I'm going to hit search here again. And so I can see I've got a bunch of different types of things going on. I've got a lot of trace messages, but I've got 13 requests. And I could choose to search with just those, and then you can click on those. Oh, that's a fav icon. That's not particularly useful. But I could go to the get page here, and then over here on the right, you get all the properties that you would normally get with a good tracing system, a good analytics system. So you get that by default in Visual Studio, which is really nice. And then if you deploy it to Azure, you can choose to turn that on without having to change any code in your application, which I think is pretty cool. The other thing we did to do with diagnosing stuff at debug time, or when you're running, I just need to close and reopen this due to a bug at the moment. If I don't debug the application, but I just Control F5, I launch without debugging, I still want to be able to see logs coming from our application. That's always been a problem in Visual Studio because we run behind IIS Express. And so now, though, if I go to the output window and I flip this, you can see we've got ASP.NET Core Web Server here. And so, well, look, your request counter is actually working in this version. So it's actually, I can see the traces right in here inside Visual Studio, which is kind of nice. Okay, I don't get the colorization because it's not the console logo as such. It's being funneled through a whole bunch of other things. But I get it inside my application, inside Visual Studio, while the application is running over here, which is pretty cool. So very quickly, a couple of things I wanted to show you. In my startup, I've registered a tag helper component, which is a new feature down here. So a tag helper component is like a tag helper, but not quite. It looks like a tag helper. It has the same interface, but you can't interact with it. You can't use it in a page. The idea is that they live in the dependency injection system, and then they automatically attach themselves to particular elements. This one cares about whether it's running in the body element, and if it does, it puts hello world at the top. So this system is designed to allow you to silently inject in generally diagnostic type code into the front page, into the front end of your application, like inject JavaScript or tracking IDs or those types of things, because you can attach to the body tag or the head tag just by putting something in DI. And because you can add stuff to DI either by the hosting startup that we just talked about, which is what Application Insights uses, or you can build an extension method, for example, that hangs off web host. So you can build something down here that people call, use migrate thing, and that can put stuff in the DI container that could do something that results in some JavaScript being rendered on the page, which is kind of cool. And then the last minute, I just wanted to quickly show you a little bit more about Razor Pages. So we just showed you some read-only stuff. I wanted to give you a quick example of a CRUD form. So I have a customers page here, assuming my app is still running, because you never know once I've been fiddling around. I can hit create over here. I can hit Damian, Edwards, or if I don't do it, it's got validation. It's a standard type of thing, right? And it's what you'd expect. It's Entity Framework. I went back to the customers page. It said it was created successfully. If I hit F5, the message goes away, so you know it's temporary, which is good. If I hit delete, a similar thing happens. Customer deleted. If I hit F5, it goes away, right? That type of stuff is a little laborious to build. Today, we've built a couple of features that makes that simple, and you can use them from both. Razor Pages has a lot of nice features, but a couple of them you can use from controllers as well. So I'm going to open up my page model, and you'll look at this and go, well, it's pretty basic, right? Here's my page model, takes in a DB context. I have a customer property, which I bind to the page, okay, which is nice. I have this message property, which is backed by temp data, and I can now back properties in controllers or pages with temp data automatically using this temp data attribute. That's implemented as a filter, so I don't have to do all that temp data bag garbage with a string and stuff to get stuff out and recast it. It's also, there was something else I was going to say with that, I've forgotten what it was. And then down here, we've got some really nice support for routing with Pages, because Pages is built right on top of MVC. We get all the URL generation goodness of routing that's built into MVC. So I can do things like relative page links And so I can take a folder of pages, move it around my application, and all the link generation still works because I can have those sibling pages talk to each other or refer to each other by way of things like relative URLs, which is really, really nice. So you can see here, all I'm doing is setting the message property in here, and then the next time round, because it's temp data, it's going to get read once by the request and then rendered by the actual page, which is here. Nope, back on the index, sorry. Over here, here's my show message. Show that message on the index page if I create one, or show one if I delete one. So I encourage you to have a look at Razor Pages if you're doing any type of HTML in an ASP.NET Core app today. We think it is a superior way of doing server-side HTML than using views. You can use it together. You can render views from pages. You can share layout, all that type of stuff. It is the same view engine. So I do strongly encourage you to take a look. Our time is up. Yep. We have another talk later on today to talk about crazy future ideas that I'm not going to commit to at all. But if you're at all interested in what we're thinking about beyond this year, like these are features that some of them might get into the release at the end of the year, but a lot of these are things that we're thinking about for beyond that. So I encourage you to come to that if you'd like to see those type of things. Otherwise, thanks for coming and learning about ASP.NET Core 2. Please download the preview and give us some feedback, and we'll see you next time.